Hi, I'm here to talk to you about how to make a Cuddle cowl. So this is using Shannon Cuddle plush fabrics. And I know I've done this before on YouTube with how to do the cowl, and there are probably some tutorials from Shannon Fabrics as well. But kind of for my local audience that is going to be coming in and making these cowls now before Christmas, I wanted to repeat this. So this time I'm using Luxe Cuddle Seal. I cannot emphasize how you need to run, don't walk, to the shop and get this fabric. It is amazing. If you think you've been amazed by the faux furs and the Cuddle fabrics that Shannon Fabrics has produced before, when you see this, it's called Luxe Cuddle Seal, you will die. It feels like sable. It is just the most magnificent fabric. It is just so incredibly beautiful. We have it in 3 colors right now, and I have ordered more because I'm just so impressed with it. We have it in gray, we have it in ivory, and we have it in this lovely milkshake kind of pink that looks like a movie star pink from the 1950s. So what I've done is I've cut a long strip of it, all right? And that's what we do here for you at the shop. We'll do the cutting. We will cut a strip for you because it's 60 inches wide. You don't need any more than 60 inches wide. Okay, that's the width. That will be the length of your scarf or cowl. And then the amount that you cut, so if you'd say you wanted a half a yard or a third of a yard, that is the distance around. So you have 60 inches wide, the fabric 60 inches wide, that would be the length of your scarf or cowl, and then however wide you wanted it, your scarf or cowl to be. So I have cut this one 16 inches, just because I wanted it to be slightly taller. We usually, for the scarves, recommend a third of a yard, which is 12 inches. I just went 4 more inches just to give it a little bit of a more taller around my neck kind of feel. So I've pinned it all the way down along the length. So there's 2 cut edges here. This is the end, the selvage edge, and there's 2 cut edges here. So I've pinned all the way down, and I've got my walking foot on my Bernina. Now, this is really, really important. I am a Shannon Fabrics brand ambassador, so I do know all of the different techniques and tips for how you do this. So no need to backstitch yet at this point. I'm going to clip my extra thread there. Your pins need to be parallel like this, not this direction, okay? That's the official Shannon word, that those pins need to go parallel to the cut edge. You have to use a walking foot, and your stitch length should be up to about a 3. This is a Bernina, so it is a longer stitch length would be about a 3, maybe a 3.5. Other sewing machines, I'm not quite sure if they use the same numbers for stitch length. All I can tell you is on a Bernina, it's 3, and you need to pull up your stitch length. The seam allowance, as you can see, is I'm not doing a 1/4 inch seam. This is not a quilt, okay? This is a garment. So we're doing a 3/8 of an inch seam. 3/8 inch. 3/8 inch seam allowance. You could easily do a 1/2 inch. That little 1/8 of an inch is not going to make much of a difference. But I'm doing 3/8 of an inch because that, again, is the official Shannon word, and you do want a little more of a seam allowance when you're making a garment, because there's gonna be a lot of pulling and tugging on a garment, especially when you're putting it around your neck. Now, I don't know if anybody's watching this that's from a warmer climate, but we have been extremely cold already this fall. I've already started pulling the cowls out. Now, if you were making a scarf, you would just simply go all the way down. You would close off the ends, but we're not going to close off the ends. We're going to leave an opening in the center. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. I'm going to back stitch just a couple stitches. I'm going to leave an opening big enough to fit my hand through, big enough to turn. We do this both on the scarf and on the cowl. You're going to leave an opening. But on the scarf, you would just close up those ends. On the cowl, we're not going to close up those ends. So I'm going to start back again here. And go all the way down. Now, I probably did not pin this as much as I should have. If you're new to this, make sure you're pinning so close that the head and the tail of the pin are touching. I'm serious, that's how close you should be pinning. I've been doing this for so long, I don't really feel like I need to pin that closely, but you should. If you're not used to sewing with a lot of Cuddle, make sure you're pinning that close. So this was deceptive on this video that the way how close I had it pinned. I probably should have pinned it closer for the purposes of the video, but like I said, I'm not a novice with this. I've done this quite a few times. This is the most fabulous. You can see just how thick that pile is on this Cuddle fabric. It is just absolutely amazing. If you've got your walking foot on, you won't have any trouble whatsoever. You really do need to have a walking foot. Don't try to do this without a walking foot. You'll really be sorry if you do. You'll have a mess. Okay, so now I've gotten down to my end. I'm going to sew right off the end here. Okay. So if I'm going to make a cowl, I'm going to put my arm in. I'm going to pull this into itself like a tunnel, tunneling it in. Okay, it's being tunneled in. And I'm going to find my seam allowance. Here it is. And match it up with this. See the seam allowance? There it is. There's my seam allowance. Okay, I'm matching it up with this seam allowance. All right, and remember I left an opening. I've left an opening in the side when I stitched it. So now I'm going to, again, if you are a novice at this, you should be pinning this. I'm removing my slide table off of my machine because I want that open arm to put this into. If you are a novice, you need to pin this, and I'm going to show you how close you need to pin this. You need to pin it like this, and then you need to put another pin in here so that this pin touches that pin. That's how close I want you to pin this if you're a novice with Shannon Cuddle. It is worth the extra trouble to go through the pinning. It is definitely worth the extra trouble. Now, once you see this is so simple. I just sewed down that long edge, pulled it in on itself, right sides together. Okay, now I'm going to put it on my arm like this, my sewing machine arm. I'm going to slowly pull it onto there. Make sure I get that all, there we go. Make sure you're going through all the layers. Make sure you got all the layers in there. Now this, you're just going to sew around in a circle. Got a little bit of extra in there that will be worked in with the feed dogs. Okay, yeah, don't put your fingers too close. You can always use a wooden stylus. Don't get your fingers underneath the needle. Laura's videotaping me, and I heard her gasp when I got my finger so close. That was an audible gasp. See how fast and easy that is? Isn't that amazing? So you're just going around. If you have a little bit of extra heft, stretch it this way, like that, to flatten it. There we go. Not going to worry about my threads too much because they're all going to be encased on the inside. Now it looks like this, okay? It's like this big worm. Now here's the opening that we left before. Now this is where the magic happens. It's absolutely magical. Now we pull it right sides out. I'm going to stitch this up by hand. I'm going to get some pink thread and I'm going to stitch this closed. Even if you use the machine and you stitched it closed, it would be fine because the thread just kind of melts down into the Cuddle. But look at the luxury. Look at the luxury. Look at how fabulous this is. We get really, really cold winters here, and it is stunning. Absolutely stunning. You will be the envy of all your friends.